Chapter 21. Oli felt exposed, naked. His back and neck burned, and no matter how he shifted his cloak, he couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. And the cloak felt all wrong. His boots fit all wrong, too, and his shirt and belt. Everything was off, twisted about like helplessly tangled thread. He felt like an interloper now, an intruder into the wood, a foreigner followed by foreigners. This place was supposed to be for him and Tuck and no one else. Dangerous and strange, yes, but still theirs. And now he led a group of city-dwelling snobs who didn't understand the first thing about this place, and he did it without Tuck. In the wood, there was a peaceful clarity tied to understanding its danger. Things had always been clear, and the rules understood. Keep moving or die. Stay away from the trees and vines. Watch for large clumps or piles of leaves. Don't drink the water. Don't eat the fruit. And don't ever go into the deep. But he'd broken the last rule, and somehow fate had strung his stupid mistake into a whole string of impossibilities. Now he drug around the princess and her lackeys through this holy ground for money. He wanted to retch. Oli forced himself to remember the hunger pains, the worn clothes that his mother wore, the dwindling firewood. He didn't do this for money. He did it for his mother, for Layla, for the life they could buy when this ended. He just had to get this done and get out. If the princess saw any of the tension in Oli's face or shoulders, she ignored it. She walked beside Oli, peppering him with questions. Her eyes never left him, and Oli felt a confusing mix of irritation, fear, and longing. It became harder to focus than he would have liked, especially when sometimes she got close enough, he could feel the faint brush of her breath on his cheek. "Away from that," Oli snapped, using his bow to point to a small pile of leaves that the red-haired ranger was about to step in. The woman paused and then backed away, going around the spot in a wide arc. "Tell me," the princess was saying, "how did you break the enchantment when we first stepped into the wood? Do you possess magic?" Oli laughed. "No." Leonie kept quiet as they passed beneath a branch, twitching vines dangling from it. They were still in the outer bands, so if they kept up the quick walk, they shouldn't have to worry about the vines for now. But Oli wanted to run, to become a blur to everything that would kill them otherwise. He could run all day in the wood, but he doubted it would be the same for everyone else. They'd be running once they got past the wall, so Oli decided to let them save what energy they had. "You spoke a word," Leonie continued. "When you said it, I came back to myself. It was like a dream, and then... It's the call, the wood's way of making you easy prey. You'd have started walking deeper in without knowing." "Deeper?" "Aye, deeper. Would have led you into a viper pit or bear den or, I don't know, something just as nasty." Leonie had her own sort of call. It was hard not to sneak furtive glances, catch glimpses of the dimple on her cheek, the narrowing of her eyes. But it wasn't an attraction, he told himself, just curiosity. The trouble he had breathing must just be the perfume that she wore. "But it does not have any sway on you, this call?" "Not for a long time." "Why not?" Oli said nothing. He felt tempted to keep up the banter, to hear more words spoken in her thick accent, but he had his limits, boundaries. Leonie looked back briefly, then said, Tall also seemed unaffected. And that was odd. Oli had noticed it too, but he wasn't sure what to make of it. His father had talked of people who didn't hear the call, but Oli hadn't met any of them, and his father hadn't explained any more. "Strange," Oli muttered. Leonie sighed, becoming utterly interested in the wood around them, looking everywhere but at him. She breathed deep, grinding her jaw like a fighter bracing herself. She began slowly. "Back there, with this snake." 12 hells, Oli thought, throat going dry. The last thing he wanted was the princess trying to thank him or apologize or something else equally suffocatingly awkward. Whatever she had in mind, he wanted none of it. So there's a war? Ollie cut in. Yes, she said, drawing the word out. So, how's that going? Ollie shifted to the side, giving a low-hanging willow a wide arc. Leonie pursed her lips. Not well. The armies of Katsaraka have taken Worcester, our westernmost sentinel city. Sentinel city? Do you learn nothing this far from civilization? We learn to stay upright, Ollie said, glancing at Leonie's dirt-covered trousers. She scowled, scrunching up her brow. Ollie thought he could see his head on a pike reflected in her eyes. The sentinel cities are a network of large fortifications throughout Trevelar, which form the core of our kingdom's defenses. Any incoming army would, eventually, have to deal with these cities, and the large battalions stationed there. Worcester was, outside the mountain pass that leads to the land of darkness, our primary defense on the western side of the kingdom. There's no hope of taking it back? Leonie's voice grew quiet. There's nothing to retake. Ollie had little context for cities and war, but he sensed reverence in her words that made him figure it was pretty bad. And you were there at Worcester? I was, as was my brother, Prince Bastian. We fought the forces of Kataraka in the fields outside the city. She touched her forearm. We had hoped to clamp down on the enemy like a vice, pressing them between our forces and the great walls of Worcester. That is not what happened. Why not? Leonie shifted as she walked, pulling her hand away from the scar beneath her sleeve to clutch her sword handle. No one else wore armor, and her chainmail clinked ever so lightly as they walked. When we pressed into the enemy, they destroyed the walls of the city. It should not have been possible. Built of black stone, 12 yards thick, impossibly high. Those walls were an engineering marvel, built 1,000 years ago and over 4 lifetimes, and they tore them down. Ollie scratched his chin, thinking of the wall a few miles away. Is that like, 10 paces? What? 12 yards. How many paces is that? Leonie looked around as if pleading for help. I have not the slightest. 15, Fjord chipped in. About 15 paces, I'd say. Well, Ollie said, spitting aside, that's a thick wall, eh? How in Croatia they manage to break it? Magic. I have little understanding of how it works, of course. That would be heresy, but somehow the Yelmes could conjure up a... Leonie's hands moved in front of her, closing in together and separating wide. An explosion, unlike any you could imagine. Like fire and oil? Yes, but more. Tal spoke up from behind. It was as if a grain silo filled with oil went up in flames. Leonie nodded. The sound of it was deafening, as though God himself were ripping up the skies. These were all just words to Ollie. He tried to imagine thunder, oil, burning, large walls, but he could summon nothing more than vague images. He had no real way of knowing if anything the princess said was real or not. Could just be fey tales and lies. Though, to be fair, Ollie couldn't come up with a good reason why Leonie would lie. Leonie continued, When I left Turris Regis to come here, the Yalmes had established themselves in the ashen ruin of Worcester, reinforcements pouring out from Kataraka to join them. In effect, they have made their position a permanent one. Won't the king lead an attack or something? Leonie laughed. You mean, will he ride in and save the kingdom like some children's story? No, I think not. He would not have much of a unified army to do it with anyway. Ollie looked at her. Aye? Politics, Leonie said, the words spitting out like poison. We are still a fractured kingdom. Many lords and ladies were there with me at Worcester. They saw what the enemy could do, and so they fled to their cities, hiding behind their own walls. If the king were to try and muster them all, well, it would be interesting to see, I think. Some would follow, but others would pretend they never received the command at all. No, Trevelar is doomed unless a power is unearthed to match that of the Yelmes. We have time. Even a powerful army cannot conquer a kingdom overnight. This war may drag on for a year or 2, slowed down by snow and the logistics of moving an army. But the end is inevitable, unless you find a magical weapon. Then you can ride in and save the day. Leonie frowned. It sounds like a children's story, yes? Pretty sure it is a children's story. Perhaps it is, and yet it is our only hope. Make her help us, Ollie muttered. Indeed. Where's Colin? Tall said. Ollie turned to her as she said to Victor, I said, where's Colin? He was here a moment ago, Victor said, shrugging. Am I his keeper? Singer readied her bow. He was bringing up the rear. Ollie counted the rangers. There were only 4, Singer, Fjord, Victor, and Tall. Ollie had figured out that Colin was the young one, though he was gone now, and Ollie knew he wouldn't be the last. He turned back round and picked up his pace. Keep moving. No, Tall said, shaking her head and stepping in front of Ollie. She set her jaw, dark eyes meeting his own. The early morning sun had risen higher, and the branches cast shadows and scattered patterns along the woman's neck and cheeks. We stop and find him. Ollie pushed past her. If he's lost, he's lost. The princess stayed beside Ollie, and the rest followed close, worker bees behind their queen. Tall, alone, slowed her pace, twisting between the group and the stretch of wood that they had come from. Where is he? Tall called after him. Dead, Ollie called back. He didn't know for sure, but it was probably true. Whatever had happened, if he gave Tall hope enough for her to run off, that would be bad. I'm going to find him, Tall said, turning and running back the way they came. Ollie watched her go, contemplating trying to stop her. Leonie shook her head. She will find him. Lead on, woodsman. She'll die. Unlikely. Each of the rangers in the King's Spear is highly trained. Tall had already disappeared into the wood. She's fast. I'll give her that. If she's cautious, she'll live. If she's reckless, she'll just die faster. You seem very concerned about my soldiers. You seem unconcerned. They have a duty. There's honor in letting them fulfill that duty. Ollie snorted. You disagree? Leonie cast him a sideways look, eyebrows arched. Ollie glared back. Maybe she had no soul. Maybe whatever crown she wore back in her palace sucked out whatever would have made her human. He thought about saying as much, but instead he muttered, We best keep moving.